Police bum rushing into my apartment, fire trucks outside, neighbors watching, me getting hauled off to a mental hospital for over a month, all as a result of the Jehovah's Witnesses pushing me into an emotional breakdown. This is going to be the first time I really open up about this, so buckle up. This is my story. So it started out with something simple. I stumbled across some exjw material one day, and it was talking about how JW parents indoctrinate their children super young. They tell kids magic is bad, they control what you watch, they control what you believe, they control what you think about, even what you imagine about.
Fine. Look at Sparlock's magic cube. What toy is that? Is this toy magical? Magic is bad. That's why Jehovah hates it.
And that triggered a memory within me that I had not thought about in years. So I was around 7 or 8 years old when the Disney movie Mulan came out. Some of you guys might remember that. Stare back at me. So my JW aunt took me to see the movie Mulan, and there was a part of the movie where she's speaking to her ancestors, and I was told to cover my eyes during that part. And back then, of course, I didn't question it. I just grew up thinking, oh, well, that's bad. But after stumbling across that XJW material as an adult, that's when it clicked for me. I'm like, man, these people actually robbed me of the ability to think for myself. I wasn't even able to watch a movie without it being filtered through their doctrine. And that lit a fire under me. But once that veil is ultimately pulled back, you'll never look at things the same again. And so I just started binge watching apostate material, and it felt like my life as a child and as a teenager was being narrated. Almost everything I came across, I was like, yep, that's me. That happened to me too. Wow, I remember that. And I got furious at my family, furious about the years wasted. And so that was the beginning of the rampage. I picked up the phone and I immediately started calling my JW relatives. I'm like, yo, why did you make me cover my eyes during that Milan movie? Why did you tell me this was bad? Why did you isolate me from my non-JW friends? Why did you tell me this was wicked? Back and forth going off. And they're just sitting on the other end of the phone. Have you been taking your medication lately? Like, I'm not ready for this type of conversation right now. And that made me even madder because I'm not only were you guys the ones that introduced this stuff to me and forced it on me all these years, but now they're not even hearing me. And so by this point, I'm still on the roll. I'm talking for 3 days straight. No food, no sleep, no water, just calling and texting my family members, asking these questions, sending them stuff, asking them questions, leaving voice memos. They're just sitting there in silence. And so finally, one of my aunts picked up the phone and I asked her, where is my grandmother at? Because you see, my grandmother was the main person that raised me in that stuff. And so I wanted answers from her directly first. And she's going to tell me, oh, she went out in field service. And I'm like, man, this is the ultimate knife in the chest. Because I'm like, here I am going through a very peculiar time period. And I'm contacting you guys to discuss it. And she's just out in field service like a robot knocking on doors. And what makes it even worse is that she went out in field service with another one of my JW aunts from a completely different congregation, which I had contacted her as well. And so to me, it was probably some faith strengthening session or something. Let's go out in the ministry to try to shake off his apostate nonsense. And so I'm still on a roll. From there, I went into full rampage mode to the point where I was even contacting non-JW friends and flipping out on them, calling them frauds and pointing out past interactions between us. It was like a complete spiral. And everybody was asking me, "Oh, are you going through something? You need a doctor?" But mostly the JW, or excuse me, the non-JW people were asking me that because what I was doing was completely out of character. But even though my non-JW friends were genuine and having concern for me, I was still triggered because they're like, "Do you need a doctor?" I'm like, "Man, this is the same crap my family is talking. Like, I don't need no doctor. Ones need a doctor." Everybody else thinks that I'm tripping, but y'all don't really see the picture. So out of just sheer frustration, I started trashing my apartment, throwing items, flipping furniture. I broke the microwave door. I broke the window. This high-rise apartment, it was a giant window. I broke the window, ripped the oven door off, and then I went to the window, started throwing chairs out the window, tables, anything I could get my hands on. And just so happened, there was an off-duty cop walking down the street who looked up and saw the stuff flying out the window, and he ended up calling it in. So a few minutes after that, it's boom, police! I'm still inside. I'm still screaming all this JW stuff, and I got apostate videos blasting through my YouTube speaker. And so I immediately took furniture that was still in the apartment and barricaded myself inside by putting the furniture to the door. And at one point in the midst of all this, I had lit a pizza box on fire, some type of maniac, and I was just holding it in the air, and paper burns fast. So I ended up throwing the box before it burnt my fingers, and the police smelled the burning, the smoke. And so that's when they finally just broke into the apartment. And when they came in, all I heard was one of them say, "I have non-lethal." And boom, they rushed in. 6 of them had their guns out. And I just laid on the floor and I'm still shouting. And they cuffed me up, took me outside. I get outside, 6 cop cars, 3 fire trucks. They got the news channel out there. And then the whole apartment complex is standing out front as well because in the midst of that, the fire alarm got pulled. And so they put me in the back of the squad car, and I'm still screaming in the back of the squad car. So fast forward, they took me to the police station. They're trying to question me, trying to figure out where all this is coming from. But I'm like, I'm just still in an uproar. All I can think about is this JW stuff. I need answers. I'm angry, but they're not really making sense of it. They're just all standing there looking at each other. And so ultimately, take me out of the police station. We get back in the car and we start driving, and we end up at a hospital. And so they take me in the hospital, and I remember this guy, I guess, well, I know he was some type of law enforcement, but he had plain clothes on. He didn't have a cop uniform on. And I remember him saying, "Yo, you need something to drink?" So he went, grabbed me a ginger ale while I'm waiting for them to check me in. And he's like, "I know you're going through something, but try to be calm for these people so that they can help you out." So they do all the routine stuff, the urine samples, the blood samples. They're trying to calm me down. And I just wasn't having it. I'm still on a roll. And so they gave me some type of shot. I forget the name of it, but all I know is it was a little after maybe noon when they gave it to me. And I didn't wake up until practically 11:30 midnight. So I was out like a lamp. When I woke up, They transferred me to another hospital, which was a long-term version of the hospital I was in. And I ended up staying in there for a good month. But it's crazy because the whole time I'm in there, I'm still calling people. I'm still calling my aunts. I'm still calling my uncle all day, leaving voicemails. Y'all gonna answer me. Y'all are gonna hear this. And so one day, I'm out in the little recreational area of the hospital in the psych unit, and there was a commercial that came on TV from the Cochran firm. And I'm like, Cochran firm. So I went as far as calling the Cochran firm and actually trying to sue my family, my former congregation. I told them the whole story and how I was in the hospital, and I said I was mentally abused, and because I'm like, they're not listening, I got to take extreme measures. And at that point, once my family caught whiff of that, because I did tell them, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna sue the pants off of you guys. You're gonna pay for this, all those old elders. And I started naming off all the elders that used to drag me into the back room over and over for petty stuff. I said, y'all are gonna pay for this. And from that point, they really backed away. My uncle, one of the uncles I had, former Bethelite dude, he had told him, hey, be careful with him. Don't answer nothing. Don't say nothing. Which they already weren't doing that anyway, but that kind of reinforced it. So my grandmother got on the phone one day and she was like, hey, we can't talk to you right now. And your uncle said, be careful with you. And that was the end of our communication for the longest time. So fast forward, like I said, I stayed in the psychiatric unit for a month. When I finally got released and got back to my apartment, I didn't even recognize it. I was shocked that I actually did that to the apartment, because you got to figure by this time they don't put me on all types of medications, and they done so much at the hospital within that past month that I'm starting to calm down from whatever wave I was on. And it's like the aftermath is kicking in at this point. And I'm like, man. And so a few days later, I hear another knock on the door, and it's the police again. Now, you remember the lighting of the pizza box on fire. So this time, these guys gonna say I'm being charged with arson. They cuff me up, and I'm going back to the police station. So I'm sitting there. They like, no bond. We're denying your bond. And I'm like, man, these people are really trying to make me out to be a monster. They don't even really know the backstory of all of this. This is not typical behavior for me. You can look at my record. I have zero interactions with police or anything like that. This is all my reaction to what happened, what I discovered. But that was irrelevant to them. But eventually, I think I might have stayed in there for less than a week, nothing dramatic, but ultimately I got released. Arson is a very serious charge. And so now it's like, not only am I going through all of this, but now we're talking about jail time being on the table. So fast forward, I'm on eggshells. I don't really know what's going to happen. I finally got to sit down with a lawyer, and I told him the whole story from start to finish. And he was basically saying, because there was no malicious intent and it was due to a breakdown, that's what he was going to argue for. And most likely I could walk away with probation. But I ended up telling him that I read some information where in some states they have this thing called mental health court. And that's when your case can be transferred from a criminal docket to a mental health docket. So basically, that's the treatment focused court. Instead of them saying you need to go to jail, it's more so a how can we help you program. So he said he was going to push for it. And it takes some time for this type of thing to get approved. So again, I'm on eggshells. I don't really know how it's going to play out. Ultimately, it ended up working out. I got 18 months of psychiatry, 18 months of therapy, and then 18 months of check-ins with this mental health team. And that was the ultimate inconvenience. But my two options were the 18 months of this mandatory criteria or 4.5 years in jail for lighting a pizza box on fire while you're mentally stressed.
That would be horrible.
So I haven't spoken to my JW family since then. I haven't reached out, nothing, because after all of that, I realized there's nothing I can possibly say that's going to make these people listen. They're still sitting there raising their hand, giving watchtower comments and standing around carts and same old drill. And that's the part that really sticks with you because I'm literally screaming for help in a sense. And they're kind of looking at it, probably thinking like, I state.
Now, I urge you, brothers, to keep your eye on those who create divisions and causes for stumbling, contrary to the teaching that you have learned, and avoid them.
So that's pretty much the full breakdown of the story. And the reason I'm sharing this is to offer some transparency into my background. And also because I know that there's other people out here that have been pushed to the edge by indoctrination and gaslighting. So if you're to that point now, or you're getting to that point, I would say talk to a therapist, do whatever you need to do to get some help. So that way you don't have to burn your life down and restart from scratch how I did. So if you're interested in viewing more XJW content, subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in being part of a community with XJW Nation, my Patreon link will be in the description as well. I'll have some exclusive things going on there for members. And lastly, if you've been through anything similar, drop a comment so that I can hear your story as well. But for now, dodge the tower, claim your power. I'll see you on the next one.